Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're doing It Came From the Network. The topic of this It Came From the Network, ECW November To Remember 1995. And being as that these are going to be all in November, I decided to do a little bit of a theme. We're going to do November to Remember 95, 96, 97, 98, and I believe 99, because I believe there's 5 Wednesdays in November. If not, we're going to stop at 98. I could have swore there was 5 when I wrote it down, but we're going to do November to Remember all month long. We're going to stay in the land of extreme. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, I rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is the best, 5 is the worst. Let's jump right in. First match of the show, we get Donnie Allen versus the Broad Street Bully with Bubba Ray Dudley. This was when he was in full stuttering gimmick as a guest ring announcer. That match gets scrapped when Bubba bombs Donnie Allen. So you can say that 3 times fast. Which leads us to a match with Bubba Ray Dudley versus the Broad Street Bully. Funny that Bubba Ray is fighting a guy with Bully in his name. We got the Dudley families with him. Chubby Dudley, Big Dick Dudley, Dances with Dudley, and Sign Guy Dudley. Quick match, Bully makes short, or Bubba Ray makes short worth of the Broad Street Bully. See, it's hard. I'm going to give this all a 3. I thought it was good, just a little bit on the short side. Next up, we were promised a surprise at the show, and boy did we get one. After several months of being fired from ECW, Paul Heyman announces the return of Sabu. This was a huge moment. This was a huge pop for the people in ECW. Sabu, long considered one of the ECW stalwarts, one of the guys that if there was a Mount Rushmore, he'd probably be on it. So him coming back for that crowd, it made some people upset in the locker room because he was fired for missing dates, most notably Taz. But it also made the fan base happy. And the one thing you could say about Paul Heyman is he always tried to make his fans happy. He always tried to give the ECW fans exactly what they wanted. Going from that, we get a match with Conan versus Jason. This is pretty good. The special referee for the match is Taz. Taz jumpstarts the match by clocking Jason when Jason's kind of insulting him, leading to a very quick match with Conan disposing of Jason. I'm going to give this one a 3. I thought it was pretty good. I liked the interaction. Again, can't give it too much more than that just because of the brevity of it. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty fun thing. Going from that, our next match is going to be Stevie Richards versus El Puerto Ricano. And I'm sorry, I hate that name. It doesn't feel right, but that was the wrestler's name. I do apologize. This is interesting because it's the first time that the Blue Meanie joined Stevie. He's sitting first row ringside, and he has a Flock of Seagulls shirt, half shirt that he gives Stevie. Stevie invites him over. Meanie gets involved in this. This leading to one of the great comedic pairings in the history of wrestling, Meanie and Richards, who would later become 2/3 of the Blue World Order. But these guys were great. They had great comic timing together. They were great, how can you say, lackeys for Raven. Richards does pick up the win here. I'm going to give this one a 3 again. Next up, we have a tag team match. The Pitbulls with Francine going up against the Eliminators with Jason. Jason seems to be all over the early part of this show. This is a really fun match. This is 2 of the better tag teams, not only in ECW, but in the whole world at the time. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. They didn't wrestle a whole lot against each other, but when they did, it was always usually a really good match. The Pitbulls do pick up the win on this one. Afterwards, Jason gets in the ring, forces Francine to kiss him. Then the Eliminators hit total elimination on both Pitbulls. I'm going to give this all a 4. I thought it was good. I like how the storyline progressed. It definitely feels like, and going back and watching this out of order, not, weekly to weekly, it felt like a definite progression in the feud, that off of what happened afterwards, that there would be another match coming up with better stipulations, which I believe there was, but I'm just watching this one in a vacuum, so it did feel like it was a feud ramp up, if that makes sense. After that, we get a Texas death match, or a Mexican death match. Rey Mysterio Jr., as he's being called, versus Psychosis. This was outstanding. I know a lot of people have seen this match. This is one of the ECW matches that gets on a lot of compilations of ECW, that gets on the WWE Network a lot. This was really fun. If you watch it now, not seeing it at the time, you don't realize how far ahead of the game these two guys were. But they were so far ahead of what was happening in America and changing and raising the bar, bringing that Lucha Libre style, mixing it here with the ECW style, giving us a hardcore version of Lucha Libre. This is an amazing match. As you could win, you had to pin your opponent, and then they had to stay down and not get in the ring for a 10. Mysterio makes a pin out by the Eagle's Nest, where Joey Styles called the action from. He gets back to the ring. Psychosis doesn't make it. Mysterio picks up the win. I'm giving this one a 5. Afterwards, Jason tries to recruit Mysterio. Mysterio turns him down, which brings out the Eliminators. They try to bully Mysterio, which brings out 911, which was the start of and I do remember this storyline, definitely, the start of one of my favorite thrown together tag teams that didn't last too long, 911 and Rey Mysterio. I really enjoyed them as a team. They worked so well as the dichotomy of a huge monster and a little guy that's probably one of the smallest guys in wrestling at the point. And they just worked so well off each other, off of their different styles. I love that team. I wish I would have seen more of them. Speaking of teams, our next match is for the Tag Team Championship and the TV title, which our tag team title is held by Too Cold Scorpio, who wants to be called Too Gold Scorpio in the match, and Sandman with Woman going up against the Public Enemy. If the Public Enemy win, they win the tag titles. If they pin Scorpio, they win the TV title. Whoever gets the pinfall also gets the world title shot later in the show. Very convoluted, but it makes sense in the end. I do want to say, with Woman being out there, I know a lot is said about the end of Chris Benoit's life and how he killed her, and I think that's really a shame. I think we need to really start looking at Woman and her career separate from his, because she was a fantastic valet / manager, and she gave a lot. She made this team and any team she was with a lot better, whether it be a solo wrestler, whether it be a tag team, whether she be a face or a heel. She was a great talent, and we need to start putting some respect on her name. I'd love to see a point where WWE decides to put her in the Hall of Fame. I don't think they're ever going to, or at least not for a while, but she really should. She deserves it. She deserves to go in. Too Cold and Sandman pick up the win, where Sandman falls on, I believe it was Grunge, for the pin. Afterwards, we get one of the funniest things. Oh, and before the match, we had a dance-off between the two teams where Sandman, who would have thought it, Sandman could kind of dance. Afterwards, Sandman, who's knocked out, needs to be revived, so of course, Too Cold Scorpio gets what Joey Styles calls a cheap beer, a Busch beer, pours it down his throat. It revives him, brings him back to life. Really good stuff here. Overall, I'm giving that whole thing a 4. I thought it was really fun. Sandman earned him a title shot later in the show. After that, we go into what Joey Styles says is highlights of a match in it. It was a little bit chopped. Bill Alfonso versus Todd Gordon. This was obviously from the home video release, not the full card of it. We have Fonzie, who at the time was playing the heel referee that was anti-hardcore, going up against Todd Gordon, who was the commissioner. This was to be refereed by Beulah, and for reasons, just because, I had to put the picture of Beulah in her referee outfit up there. I mean, what can I say? I love Beulah. But anyway, we get back to the match. Fonzie and Todd are wrestling. Pretty decent match. Fonzie, for not being a wrestler, had a way of making these matches really fun. Fonzie does deck Beulah, which knocks her out of being the referee. Being as Taz was a referee earlier in the show, he comes out and becomes a referee during the match, which he turns on Todd Gordon, and this is a turn for Taz and Fonzie joining together and becoming a group. And basically Taz helps Fonzie pick up the win. Afterwards, Taz talks about how he was injured, nobody tried to call him, blah blah blah. That Paul Heyman said to just wait it out, even though Paul Heyman has rich parents and he could wait it out if he was, but Taz doesn't have that luxury. Very good stuff here by Taz. We're starting to see Taz as the talker more here. I thought this was all fantastic. I'm giving that a 4. Next up, we get the World Championship, which is scheduled to be Mikey Whipwreck defending against Sandman. As Sandman's making his way to the ring, he gets leveled by superstar Steve Austin. who then challenges Mikey Whipwreck for the title. It's always funny to me, even though I watched this at the time, going back and seeing Steve Austin right here on the precipice of becoming Stone Cold, evolving from the Stunning Steve character, but not quite at Stone Cold yet, but we started seeing hints of what would be one of the great characters of all time, one of the great wrestlers of all time. He was already a great wrestler. He just needed that extra oomph, and we started seeing it here, and we really did. He was a really great heel here. There's an alternative universe where Steve Austin stays in ECW and becomes just as big there and helps ECW become the biggest company in the world. That would be amazing. This was a really fun match. Mikey Whipwreck sold it like he should. Mikey at the time was playing a character that would just get lucky and win, not actually have the talent to win, kind of. He does beat Austin with a roll-up. Austin gets pissed, attacks him afterwards. For all that, I'm giving that a 4. I thought it was really, really good. Next up, we have the return match for Sabu. Sabu going up against Hack Myers. This was another fun match, and I remember they showed this match on TV, and I want to say they showed it multiple times on TV. I'm going back to it. I don't think the match was as good as much the crowd carried it, if that makes sense. Hack Myers was super over with the ECW fans. Sabu was like a god to the ECW fans. The match itself was just pretty good quality. I've seen much better matches out of both guys. One of Hack Myers had a match with Axel Rotten that I absolutely love. I think it's one of the best matches of the year that it happened. Hack Myers and JT Smith had some great matches. Sabu had great matches with a lot of people. This was just a way to get Sabu back out there for the fans. Sabu does pick up the win. I'm giving this a 3. I thought it was good. Just feels like it was more of the crowd making it feel more special than the match itself. And finally, the main event of the evening, Terry Funk and Tommy Dreamer versus Cactus Jack and Raven. This was when Raven and Tommy were in the middle of their long-standing, still-going feud, because if you watched Raven's induction into the Impact Hall of Fame, it's still going. This was awesome. Cactus had turned to be a Raven follower. He was wearing a Dungeon of Doom shirt at one point in the match, and an Eric Bischoff shirt at one point in the match, openly saying he wanted to go back to WCW, which was about the worst thing you could say to the ECW fans that loved Cactus Jack, that loved hardcore wrestling, that hated WCW. This was a really fun brawl, a really fun violent match. It was all over the place. It was bloody. It was rough. It was dangerous. He got here 4 guys that are absolutely in my top 10. Four of my top 10 wrestlers of all time are in this match, and it's just amazing. From the beginning to the end, everything about it was so much fun. We do get to see the end where Funk gets the pin on Raven, thus not also costing Dreamer from being able to pin Raven, which was an ongoing storyline. They're in the middle of the match. Taz and Bill Alfonso get involved to cement their heel tactics. This was just a fantastic main event. Overall, I'm going to give it a 5. And Funk and Dreamer picked up the win, if I didn't mention that. Overall, I'm going to give the show, I thought it was really good, some really good parts. Some of the brief matches I couldn't really say were better than a 3. Overall, I'm going to give it a 4. I thought there was a lot of really good stuff here. Mysterio and Psychosis in the main event are fantastic. The return of Sabu was fun. Mikey and Austin was great. Fonzie and Bill Alfonso and Todd Gordon was more fun than it should be. Sandman and Scorpio made a great team. Public Enemy, one of the legendary teams of ECW. The Pitbulls and Eliminators was really fun. I mean, this was a good show from beginning to the end. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, overall, I'm going to give it a 4. With all that being said, let's smash that like button, share, subscribe if you haven't. And if you made it to the end, being that we're in the month of November, let me know what your favorite side dish for Thanksgiving is. Put that down here in the comments. My name is George Coles, and this has been another It Came From The Network.